buttoned that up.
I'm very relaxed, as you can tell. I've been stretching. Mate, so why the fuck would you come on board as an ambassador for Swiss 8? What was the draw card, mate?
Suts was the draw card. If I'm being honest,
And a good-looking one.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but if I'm being honest, it's more just I think that there's a lot of charities out there or organisations doing things that maybe have a alternative motive without slagging people off. I just felt like that what you guys were doing was good, and that it was something that I wanted to align my brand with that I'd built over the last decade as an athlete. I felt like that it was heading in the right direction. I watched a bunch of people from distance. I used the app and stuff like that, and I just felt like it was something that I could align myself with that fit my values and fit my goals, especially now that I've got a gym. So, yeah.
Because you went out, you were ex-Tuareg, went to Afghan.
Second to none.
Wow.
Was that legit that they painted the fucking 2 to 1 on the, or was that just Photoshop?
Oh no, they got rid of it.
I think that got done.
We used to gaff tape it.
What was that?
We used to gaff tape it.
No, but did you see the
They painted
photo
it, I think.
going around the internet with they painted it on the driveway on the way into one area?
It's funny now. It's funny now when you sit back and you think about the fuck 1 or fuck 2 or we're gonna paint that donkey or whatever. Yeah. It's funny when you look back now. You're like, I'm in mid-30s and I couldn't think of anything fucking worse than painting someone else's workplace. I want to go home to a family. So, yeah. But it's funny. It's funny how all that sort of stuff makes the army what it is.
100%.
The rivalry.
You go to war, the boys across the road, and your fucking best mates. You come home, you get bored, and you're like, let's just go and fuck on them for a bit.
It's
what
like
makes them tight.
It's like going out in the piss, eh?
Yeah.
Like you'll punch on with each other if no one's in the pub, but if someone gets in a punch on with a civvy, then you're all in it together.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but that's what makes it great.
That's tribalism.
Because what was your? When did you go to Afghan? When was your?
2007, 2008. So I went in September 07, come back in April 08.
Did you bang it in over there? How was the experience over there?
Yeah, it was good, man. I'm one of these people that likes to look on the positive side. I like to think we're pretty lucky. We got winter, and everyone knows that activity is minimal. Fortunately, I never had to experience my car getting blown up, which I think, we were, I don't know if they've done it since, but we were engineer-led. So we were one infantry company attached to 3 CER, and I think that was the first time. And everything was, man, that engineers were fucking overworked while I was sleeping in the back of those cars, that's for sure. They cleared every road, pretty much travelled. We would have 9-hour trips just to get to where we were, like 30 Ks up the road where we were building a patrol base. So yeah, credit to them. They, I think they found something like 600 IEDs on our trip. Who knows how many were alive? Who knows how many were going to blow vehicles up? But we were fortunate that that's how it was run, and that we didn't have to experience some of those things that others did. I remember we took over from one who were on RTF2, and they were telling us about, blowing wheels off and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, we were just lucky that we didn't have to experience that part, and that the activity was minimal. Although it was still existent, Everyone likes to sleep when they're in the snow.
Yeah, the mind fuck doesn't disappear, but does it? Because even though you've got less chance of getting in a gunfight, the mines that they laid in summer don't get dug up and pulled back in for winter. They're still out in the road.
Yeah, look, I often talk about my first ever experience. That was the one that was real, even though nothing happened. So our first ever patrol was a night patrol. Step off at midnight. And it was literally like from where we were at to the edge of the green zone, sit, and fucking walk back. Right? It's pretty simple. Just walk through the desert, sit on the grass, and then walk back. fuck, I've never been so scared in my life. Like, I was the number one scout. We were the lead section, and it was just 5 cent, 50 cent the whole time. Oh, because you prepare for the worst. So, like, you're on this patrol before you've ever got complacent. Your senses are at their most heightened state, and you're like, for whatever reason, I'm walking through a paddock full of fucking crops, and at any time I feel like I could blow up. I probably couldn't. It was never going to happen. There's probably no mines there at all. But just the training and the situation just made it feel like that. And, you know, like, lo and behold, 2 months later, I'm getting 8 hours worth of sleep in the back of a Bushmaster while everyone else is doing their job. You know, you get comfortable or whatever. But right at that start, that first patrol, that's like that's your peak, you know. And that, I always talk about that experience because even though nothing happened, it was weird. It was like everything was real from that moment moving forwards. But it never goes away, right? You always, even though you're like, you got your weapon between your legs and your head's on it, you're falling asleep in the back of a car. You're always waiting for fucking something to happen.
Bang. Yeah, 100%. The nursery patrols are the worst ones, especially in your first trip. Nursery patrols, got no fucking idea what you. I don't have the mortars, mate. So our MREs were dropping fake mortars or dropping real mortars. There wasn't a lot of the road move stuff for MREs is not realistic. I don't know what it's like now, but it wasn't over there. Foot patrol stuff with mortars, we would put mortars on, walk 500 metres and be like, yeah, you're done. I'm like, cool. Get overseas, the nursery patrol, and I'm like, no, we didn't really practice this. But you're on edge, mate. And then, a couple of months later, it's like, complacency.
Mate, I 100% think that's why, and especially being with Schwebzy, we took the piss out of everything. And I think towards the end of the trip, I was fucking complacent, mate. I was switched off. I was trying to stay, I don't think complacent, but I was fucking well off walking 14 Ks a day in the middle of the heat. And I was just like, you know what? If I stand on something, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But I won't have to walk this fucking patrol all the way back.
I think it's pretty easy to get complacent, you know, like, especially like say winter, less activity. You still know it can happen. You're still always aware of it. I think it's a subconscious thing to have heightened senses. But, you know, on the surface, it's like, oh, fuck, I'll just have a sleep here. Who knows where you're sleeping, you know what I mean? I think that's just, it's like normal with anything in life, and going there was no different. Time makes everything go away.
Well, it's just normal, I think, because I mean, for me, before I joined the army, watching Hollywood movies with like 6 soundtracks and special effects, I was like, fuck, it's going to be like that all the time. You get over there, there's no soundtrack. There's no special, you're just like...
Well, I guess like the other thing is like, you know, we got contacted just before Stand 2 one night, and they fucking Stand 2 for like 5 hours. And so like, even though your senses are heightened and you're at war or whatever, I'm like, really? Like, can't we just stand? Look, nothing's happened for 20 minutes. Let's just fucking go to bed. You know what I mean? Like, 5 hours later, it's 10 p.m. I'm fucking standing in a pit that the excavators are dug, thank God. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I'm standing here for nothing. They're gone. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to shoot me like 4 hours later. And if they do, like, I'll get up then. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's like in the first week, I would have been like, nah, let's stand here for 12 hours, you know? But in the last week, I'm like, oh, boys, they're packed it in. Let's go to bed. Yeah. You know? I think over time, things just get easier, you know, and I think you care less, you know?
I think so. I think you get desensitized to it to a degree.
I think I was lucky. I don't have kids. You know, I had a missus. I met her a couple months earlier. So we were together while I was over there, but I didn't have kids. I didn't really give a fuck. I was pretty cool.
That fucking ruined some of the boys. Like, I'm again, like I don't think I had a playbook that I was reading from, but I broke up with my missus 2 weeks before we left.
Convenient.
Well, deliberately. I'm like, I don't want this stress in my life going overseas because we were going to be there for 8 to 9 months. I'm like, nah, we're not that tight yet. I'd only been with her for a few months. I'm like, let's just call it because it's not going to last.
I think I was with my missus 6 months. I got engaged 3 weeks before I went over. Thankfully, we're still together, bro. It's been 14 years in April.
We're still together there.
It's been 14 years in April. So she's a good egg. She made damn sure, because my mates are making plenty of jokes about her taking me for a ride. You know, like the normal shit. You deploy, you make 80 grand tax free. You come home and it's all gone. Or there's a
you're
pool in your
dead.
backyard, one or the other, backyard that you rent. So, it's like that's a true story, by the way.
Oh, we hear that next. I heard it.
Yeah, there was a chick that surprised her partner with a pool in the backyard, but it was actually a rental. So
It was a DHA house, mate. And she's like, oh, honey.
did you know that story? Yeah. So, thankfully, the owner of the house, I think, reimbursed him and gave him money back or something like that.
Oh,
But yeah,
shit,
that's
get that fucking
fuck
fool
up.
out of
Probably
the
should get rid of
backyard.
that woman. But anyway, it's you know, there's lots of horror stories, and my mates give me a hard time. You know, I've been with my missus. I think I deployed at the end of September. I'd been with her probably like 5.5, nearly 6 months when I actually left. And you go and do your will. You know, you're fucking 21 years old. I don't have a will. I don't even own anything. Like, anyone can have my TV. It doesn't matter. But you know, you're gonna have money in the bank when you come back while you're away. So if anything happens, you gotta have your will in place. And I went to do that. She's like, "Fucking, don't you put my name on anything. Make sure you know." I had my mum's name on everything. I had a rental property. My mum's name was on that. So she made her best effort to disengage herself from everything that gave her any financial benefit should anything happen to me. And kudos to her, man. That's a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah, it's a good sign.
So come back and we've got a kid now, so she's going nowhere, bro.
No, the flip side was the boys that went over with Miss, and this is all I was thinking about when I broke up with this chick. The boys went overseas and they were going on like patrols all day, potentially getting fucking IED'd or shot at, coming back in, ringing their missus and having a fucking argument. I'm like,
bro.
You don't need that in your life,
Yeah,
mate.
we had a few like, you know, mishaps here and there on the phone, but at the end of the day, you know, they're stressed, you're stressed.
Yeah,
Fucking is what it is. But call me back later.
Yeah.
Get off the phone. Talk to you in 3 days.
We had a few times, mate. One of our medics was literally doing the same thing. Literally just got on a big tick, and then he's like, gets back, Mrs. blows up like, "Yeah, I'm fucking leaving you." And he's like, "I'm kind of busy right now." But I'm like, "Oh, off you fucking go, mate." Like,
Yeah,
you
it's
fucking.
just one of those things, you know. It's fucking weird. I think some people, like in your situations, for instance, it's, you know, it's not a bad thing. I think, like, I often look back and think that me and my missus could have done things different. Like, 2 months before I deployed, we moved in together. I fucking paid rent and phone bills while I was away. Like, what for? For nothing, really. She was living somewhere and I was living on base, and we moved in together because we wanted to live together. But we should have waited like 8 more months. You know, there's things you can do better. But I think that, you know, if there's something there and you're together, and that's the way it is, like, you're connected.
Well, nobody knew what the fuck. Like you're saying, like you should have known. Like Snake should have known better, but we didn't deploy. You did RTF 2, right?
3, yeah.
3. So
Sorry, what year was that?
2007.
2007.
Yeah.
So it was only the third rotation over there. In
People have
total.
gone to Timor, mate.
And we've been in the army for what, a year and a half.
I joined the army August
2006.
21st, 2006,
Yeah.
and September 28, 2007. I was in the Middle East.
So I was lucky. I went straight from when we finished IETs.
You went to
straight
Timor, right? Yeah. So I
That's
remember that.
that's a little bit more of a slow step up.
Well, it was still peacekeeping at that time. Not too bad.
Yeah, there was. It was
Whereas
just
we
after
hit
that
like that
6
third
hour.
rotation, you know, like there'd only been 5, 7, and then 1, and then 2. Like that was the only rotations that had been over there. It was a bit different to fucking the last rotation as well. I mean, still there, but like the last,
Yeah.
you know, MRTF and that went over there. Patrol bases were built. We did the hard work, so
Yeah, 100%. I heard the stories as it slowly escalated. Like the 1RA boys that were there just before we were telling stories to our trip when we went over about what it was going to be like. And we got over there, like, they were still sleeping in fucking shell scrapes. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, it's beds in now, boys.
Yeah. Or when we went there, we were sleeping in like felt lagers, shipping containers, reinforced shipping containers, but in bunks, and we had some good SIGs over there, so we wired them all up and played Call of Duty on our days
Yeah,
off.
good.
12 on 12, max player, and I didn't know how to gamble before I went to the Middle East. I didn't know anything but fish and snap, but I left Afghan knowing how to play fucking poker, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which was good and bad. But downtime's playing cards and throwing US dollars on the table and playing Call of Duty, and then it's all on otherwise. So it's pretty cool.
So you get back from the game, and then you stay in, or you got out, or what's the transition into punching people in the face for a living?
So I did martial arts as a kid, and then by the time I deployed, it was probably like 4 or 5 weeks before the end of my deployment. I slid. I can't even remember now, but I slid down a fucking slope, rolled my ankle, got some scans done over there. They're like, "Oh, your trip's almost over. Just stay here." Still walking around and doing whatnot, but I just did some local patrols. And then when I got home, I had some leave, and then I had ankle surgery straight away. Had a Rico done, and after that, I was like, I was kind of just over infantry, just shit, like when you're not outfield and you're not deployed, you should be at home with your family, if you ask me. I feel for the guys that have got kids that never see their kids, but that's the job we choose, and I was kind of over it. So I was doing my rehab, and I was going to the gym all the time. Obviously the infantry battalions had their own gyms there, so I was going to the gym all the time, and I got to know the PDI there pretty good. He got me on a CFL course. I decided that I wanted to be a PDI. I got me on a CFL course.
Why the fuck would you be?
No,
You might as well said you're an MP, mate.
No, that is actually, it's interesting you brought that up, but I've had more coffee dates than you've had morning workouts, mate. Trust me. And mine were all paid for. So, so it's interesting that you brought that up. But I went and did my CFL course. I think I finished second. They do the student merit. It's right under that. And when you do your CFL course, like I guess a few of the courses you need when you transfer to different corps in the army, you need to finish, and then you get a recommendation. And so with the PDIs, some will just get recommended for unit PT. Some will get recommended for OJTs and potential PDI course, and then some will get recommended for. So mine was something along the lines of recommended for the next available PDI course. So I go back to the battalion after that course. I did a sub 1 junior leaders course that they give to everyone now.
It's a gift.
Yeah. And I did that, and that's the 2 courses you need to transfer, and then I just had to buy my time. And thankfully, Kingy from the gym, the PDI there, he got me transferred from, like, I was in, I think it was like Delta Company or something, but it's like the rehab platoon, because it was rehab my ankle, and then everyone had gone to Timor, and so I was like, oh fuck, I'll get these courses done while everyone's in Timor. So I think that kind of helped me. Then when I finished my courses, he got me changed to ops, and I worked out of the ops, and just worked in the gym for 6 months till the next course came up. Just took PT courses, PT sessions, and cleaned the gym, and pretty sure he just wanted to bitch for a bit, so I just cleaned up after him, and we worked out every day and fucking had fun, man. And in that time after my surgery, while I was rehabbing, don't tell him, while I was doing a rehab and I was mech downgraded, I was kickboxing.
Oh yeah, it's good for your ankle rehab. Yeah.
So I was working on my mobility in my ankle, focused on my boxing, but I didn't know, like, really. I was 22. I was eat whatever the fuck I wanted. There's a KFC outside of base. I used to sell out a chicken, bro. So I eat whatever I wanted, do whatever I wanted, and then all of a sudden I'm 12 weeks on the lounge and I put 13 kilos on. And I'm not educated in the sense that I played sport my whole life, did martial arts my whole life, played rugby, but I'm not educated on how to eat right. I'm not eating kangaroo sausages and broccoli and covering it in avocado or olive oil. I was literally eating McDonald's and fucking washing it down with Doritos and maybe a few beers in there. And I needed some guidance. That's not really in the army. So I reached out to Ian Bone, who,
So I was going to ask if he was an influence.
So I reached out to Boner. He obviously instructed on our IETs course, but then he discharged. and he was fighting, and he was coaching at one of the local gyms, and I said, look, man, you know, I need help. Fucking don't know how to eat right, don't know how to train right. I've been lifting weights every day, chest and tries, back and bis, shoulders and legs, 6 days a week. That's all I do, you know. And standard
He's
army,
like, yeah, it's what we
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
standard army workout,
Yeah.
chest, tries, back and bis, shoulders and legs, 3 days split, twice a week.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing, but I was doing no cardio, so it wasn't really helping me. And he like wrote this A4 piece of paper, man. It was a blank sheet of paper, and it was, I can still remember it. Breakfast, eggs, avocado. Morning tea after your workout, green apple, protein shake. Lunch, go to the mess, eat chicken and as much salad as you want. Being army, he knew it was at the mess. Can't even lie to him, right? Afternoon tea, banana or an apple, protein shake. Dinner before you work out was chicken and green vegetables only. And that's fucking what I ate, man, for like 16 weeks. I joined the army at 87. I came out of Kapuka at 78. I started training with him at 98. And 16 or 18 weeks later, I was 75. So, a lightest I've been since I was like 17 years old. And then I guess like you could say MMA spiraled from there. You know, that was the start of it. I went to him to help me. I knew what he was like. You know, he doesn't take shit. He'll see right through it. He'll tell you how it is. I went to him. I did kickboxing 5 nights a week, and I did chest and tries, back and bis, shoulders and legs 6 days a week. And nothing changed. And yeah, man, that's what happened, you know. And that was like when you're nearly 98 kilos in my frame, you're not running. You know, like the idea of going for a run to pass your BFAs, it just hurts. Do kickboxing, it's not running, you know. You need to find another way to achieve the same goal, which is to burn a certain amount of calories in a short period of time. And so for me, kickboxing was it because I'd done martial arts as a kid and it made sense and it was easy, and even being, you know, overweight, it wasn't daunting. You know, for most people it's daunting, but I'd been there and done it. So it was easy, and that's then I had a couple of kickboxing fights and he taught me into doing jiu-jitsu, which at the time seemed like a very ridiculous thing to do, rolling around the ground with another man. But I did it, and I had a fight about 6 weeks later, and being an infantry soldier, you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof and prepared for the worst in your life. And this fucking guy dismantled me like I was a 12-year-old kid, man. Dude, it was you know, we talked about it. We're like, keep it on the feet, kickbox with him, keep distance, you'll be right. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's just going to try and take you down and submit you. Now, knowing what I know now, man, fuck, I should never have had that fight. There's one thing you don't do in a fight, and that's pull guard and spend time on your back. But to my credit, I was striking well. I lasted probably 2 minutes, and then he fucking jumped guard, hit me with a sweep on the way down, got in a mount. I punched off my back, which you never do either, and then he submitted me with an armbar. Yeah. And it was like all in the space of 30 seconds, I went from being 10 foot tall and bulletproof to being buried. And it was crazy. And I switched my training from 5 nights kickboxing to 5 nights jiu-jitsu and 2 nights kickboxing. And that was an amateur fight, and about 4 months later after that, I had my first pro fight, and I went 6-0 in MMA as a pro initially. And that's where the addiction started and chasing the UFC started, and here we are today talking about it. So yeah, that's the story.
How do you go about getting into the UFC? You get managers and...
Some guys don't have managers, but you just need to have the contacts. You know, I had the contacts with the guys at the UFC. But if you've got a manager who manages other athletes, then you kind of like, they're like a trusted source. Do you know what I mean? Any athlete can reach out to a matchmaker, but the matchmaker would be like, oh, fuck this guy kind of thing. But if you've got a manager who's got 3 other athletes in there, then they've already got a relationship. They're going to trust that person's bringing in someone who can actually fight. Everyone wants to be in the UFC, so they probably get 3,000-4,000 emails a day of athletes going, oh, you know, you can have my services. It's like trying to get an NRL. It's like Q Cup and New South Wales Cup and whatever they call it in New South Wales. I don't pay too much attention to New South Wales, so
No,
what do they call it down there?
Oh, fuck.
What do they
Mate,
call
I
it?
gave up on NRL in New South Wales about, 9 years ago, and the last time they won? I don't know what the
but yeah,
the
so-
clubs are.
You know, there's like thousands of people trying to get into it. So I was lucky. Well, again, it's like I travelled the world, fought some guys in their backyards in Dublin and England and stuff like that, and I lost some close decisions. And I come home and I was 10 wins, 8 losses. And everyone knows in the UFC, you need like, or to get in MMA, to get in the UFC, you need a sort of like a 60 to 70% win record. They're not going to look at you. You also need to be coming off wins. They're not interested if you're not coming off wins. They don't care if you're 15-1, but your last fight was a loss. They'll be like, nah, doesn't matter, right? You've got to be coming off wins, and you need to have a winning record, like a good percentage winning record. I sat down with my wife. I said, fuck it, I'm 10-8. I'm never getting there. So I said, when I lose, I'll retire. And I remember she said to me, because we used to have friendly discussions all the time about my career choices, and she said, "Don't you put that on me?" And I said, "I'm not putting anything on you. Like I literally made my own decision. When I lose again, I'm a realistic person, right? I know I've got to buy a house. I want to have kids. I need to support my family. I do all these things that are right. But there's something in me that tells me I can't give up." So I said, that's my decision, not yours. It's not because of you. I'm just not going to be 10-9 and try and get to the UFC. I'm not going to be 10-10 and go, fuck, I still got hope, you know? So I said, when I lose again, I'll throw it in. I'll hang them up. I'll just train for fun. I'll go get a job and I'll just work, you know what I mean? Which, there's nothing wrong with guys, just... But as an athlete, it was like the worst case scenario. And so I won 5 straight and signed with the UFC. So that's how it happened. I don't know what it was. I think psychology. Always wanted to be in the UFC so bad that every fight was about the end goal, and you lose focus on what's happening there and then. That could be a bit of it. Whereas when I got to that point where I drew a line in the sand, I think it was like, oh, well, I can't lose this one. So it forced me to think about what was going on at that time. And yeah, I just took it fight by fight until I got there. UFC called the guy that got me the contract, Justin Lawrence. He was the former owner of XFC. I started working with him. I won his belt in my first win out of those 5. I won the belt there. I fought this Kiwi fella and broke my hand and had surgery 10 days later, compound fracture in my hand in the first round, and I won a decision. And then
You keep punching him in the face while you were with a broken hand?
yeah,
Good.
we're not necessarily the smartest. I mean,
From a bloke who does
grunts aren't that
kickboxing
smart.
for ankle rehab, mate, I'm pretty sure it would have phased him.
Well, you were a grunt too, bro. They're not that smart. Right? Just remember, it's year 10. So we're not known for being the most intelligent, but yeah, I definitely, I knew it was broken, but I picked my shots after that, but I landed some clean right hands. But there's nothing in them to knock anyone out. I was in so much pain. It was more throwing it because it was instinct. It was like, oh, there's a hole there, I'll hit that. But it hurt every time. But we won a decision. That was against Shane Young. He's in the UFC now. Good young guy, super respectful. I cornered him in his next fight. Helped corner him with his coach in his next fight. Held the bucket. I think I'd probably just say that. I held the bucket as a water boy for him. But really respectful guy. And I won a Australian title in that fight, my first ever Australian title. And then I fought a year later, almost to the date, I fought another Kiwi fella, Navy diver from New Zealand, and knocked him out in the 3rd round. And because I'd won the belt, then defended it, so I had 2 titles from that promotion. The guy that owned it was in contact with the UFC, and they reached out to find someone to fill in for Abel Trujillo, who had some visa issues, for the Brisbane card like 3 weeks later. After the fight that I had, they reached out about 7 days out, and I was working at the jail, and I remember my missus rang me and I thought, this is fucking weird because you need to ring through to a control center and then get put through to me. And so I was always like, don't ever ring me at work unless it's an emergency. Send me a text or a reply when I get back in the car. And I get this fucking phone call and they're like, oh, your missus is on the phone. I was like, oh, no. Worst case scenario, right? What's happened? And she just goes, oh, hey, listen, Justin Lawrence rang me, something to do with the UFC, wants you to ring him. Here's his number. I rang him back. He said, do you want to fight next Saturday? And I was like, what kind of question's that? And the next question he said was, can you make weight? And I said, of course I can make weight. I've never missed. And he said, yeah, that's what I thought. I've already said yes for the contracts are coming through. I literally printed my UFC contracts and everything out at work, signed them and sent them back to him from the jail. I scanned them at work and emailed them back. And that's when I signed the UFC.
How much weight did you have to cut in 7 days?
It's funny because I instantly switched my mindset to how do I get rid of those 2 meat pies that I just ate. I was just, I fought a few weeks earlier, so I was still like in a bit of a downtime kind of situation where for the first 2 weeks I was like, yep, I'm going to stay in shape, stay ready. I'll be around 80 kilos. I can sort of cut 10 in a week, and that's all water cut. So it's not, there's like a science to that. So it's not 10 kilos, it's just taking water out. But I thought, I can still make weight, so I'll be sweet. And then I got about 2 weeks out from it, or a week and a half out, and I was like, oh, fucking never ring me now. So it was like a Friday night, smashed a pizza, drank some beers, watched the footy. I think there was like a warm-up game because it was March. And then the Saturday I went to work for a 12-hour shift. I ate a brekkie roll on the way to work. I was at work just drinking coffees with the boys. And then I went and had a couple of meat pies for lunch at the mess. And yeah, fucking probably about 1 p.m. He rang me and he's like, oh, I rang him back and he said, you're in. So I had 2 tins of tuna in my bag and that's what I ate for the rest of the day. And then I ate tuna and avocado for the rest of the week. 6 tins of tuna a day with avocado and drank like 10 litres of water a day. I cut 12.8 kilos. And I made weight. Like I told him I would. It's a crazy story in itself, man. I cut weight for about... So obviously I got down to about 5.9 kilos to go by the time I got 24 hours out from 12.8. And I remember my teammate saying to me, fuck, bro, that's awesome. Like, you cut this in 24 hours all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't lose 6 kilos of weight. I lost water in that as well. So I said to him, I'm kind of dehydrated already. He was like, oh, yeah, that's true. So that morning of the weigh-ins was Saturday morning. And on the Friday morning, I went and jumped in the sauna. I cut like 3 kilos. I thought, fuck, this is all right. Came out pretty easy. So I relaxed the rest of the day, and then at night I was sort of confident it would come off, but kind of shitting myself at the same time that it wouldn't. I didn't want to be that guy that misses weight. Like, I always pride myself on being a professional. Missing weight wasn't an option.
What are the ramifications for missing
make weight or go to hospital? That was my mentality, right? And which is a shit mentality to have, but that's my mentality. I'm a professional, I make weight or I go to hospital. 20%, bro. I would have lost, I got paid 10 grand for my first fight. I would have lost $2,000. Not much, considering I'd already set my sights on making weight or going to hospital. 2 grand's nothing. But the UFC take it kind of personal. So it's like, if you miss weight, it's like a kick in the guts for them. And a lot of guys will do that on their first fight. They'll take the fight, miss weight, pay the 20%, fight, and then know that they're going to get another chance. But that wasn't me. I just couldn't do it. So I said to my teammate, let's fucking go and start cutting weight now. So it was like probably 9 o'clock at night. I went up to the sauna, jumped in the sauna, jumped back in the jacuzzi, jumped in the sauna, jumped back in, jumped in the sauna. I did that for about 2 hours. I was like, fucking. Got down to about 1.2 kilos, just over a kilo to go. I said to him, let's change, because you sauna or bath, hot bath, there's like ways to do it. I said, let's change from the sauna and go to the bath because the different stimulus for the body will mix it up. So we go down, man, it's like midnight. At 4 a.m., I still had 400 grams to go. I'd been going in and out of a hot bath and wrapped myself in a sauna suit under towels and blankets for 4 hours. And I was laying in my hotel room. I'm under everything. I'm looking up at him and I go, bro, I've never felt like this before. You need to call the ambulance. And he looked down at me and he goes, it's all right, man, I got you. We know first aid. He'll love it. He'll love it. But we tell the story all the time. It's funny as, bro, we got you. We know first aid. So there was 2 of them there, helping throughout the night. One of them was staying with me in the hotel and helped me cut weight. The other one came in to help just for the weight cut. And I was like, instantly, man, I was at peace. Like, that's trust, right? First aid's not going to say shit when you're taking 13 kilos of fucking water and fat out.
Steak bites.
Yeah. You know, and but it was crazy, man. You know, I like to think I just get into a mindset where I'm like, no, I've got to do it. I don't complain about it. When he said to me on a timer, he goes, okay, back in the bath. I'm back. I crawl back to the bath. I get in. When he says, get out, I get out. He dries me off. We get in a sauna suit. We lay down. I lay there for an hour. And I just do it as he was telling me. And then when he said to me, I know first aid, instantly I was like, okay, I'm all right then. And then he just said, look, man, you've been awake for 16 hours. I think we should have an hour's sleep and then we'll wake up and cut the rest of it. I had to be on the bus at 7. So I was like, oh, okay, no worries. So I tried to sleep for an hour, which could have just been me passing out for an hour because it's pretty wrecked. And we woke up and he said, let's go check our weight. We went and checked our weight. The scales were gone. I was like, fuck. So I went back up to the sauna and he went and got all my shit for my weigh-in because you have to wear Reebok stuff and stuff to meet the requirements of the UFC and their sponsorship. So he went up to get all my stuff, which was already packed because I got OCD. So it was all ready to go, stacked how I had to wear it. And he went to get my sauna suit and I was in the sauna and I sat in the sauna for an hour and we knew that I had 400 grams to go. I sat there for an hour and then we went back and he had to get something out of the room. So I laid outside the check-in area where you check in at a desk and you go through. The scales are in there. I was laying on the ground, half dead. And he goes, I'll be back in a sec. So he goes up. By the time he come back, I checked myself in and stripped off. I jumped on the scales and I was fucking like 0.2 of a pound underweight. I was like, yes, I made it. Like, it was the worst experience of my entire fighting career. But I made weight and it was like the biggest relief. And then I had an hour bus ride to the weigh-ins. And I remember slipping in and out of consciousness in the bus. It was, you know, I don't ever recommend it. I don't let my guys cut weight like that. But, you know, that it's the fastest growing sport in the world. And with that comes, you know, science and studies and everything else. And there's guys out there like the Fight Dietitian now that help guys cut weight safely. There was things I did, like I reached out to a nutritionist and she told me to do certain things for that cut that week that didn't make sense and wouldn't make sense now. You know, at the end of the day, I made the weight. I probably did like a lifetime's worth of damage to my body doing it. But I made weight, and for me, I can sleep at night knowing that I remain professional and I remain a man of my word. So.
And then what do you expect to put it? You put it all back on within that 24 hours?
Could you bag up back then?
No, so when I got to the UFC, I think it was like 6 months prior they'd banned IVs, but it was only just. So yeah, you couldn't IV, whereas guys used to cut extreme amounts of weight in IV, but you couldn't. So I'd stopped. I used to, but I'd stopped doing it the last couple of fights prior to the UFC because that's where I wanted to be. And I was like, if I'm bagging up before I get there, and then I get there and I can't do it, how do I perform? So I stopped doing that because that was my goal. But yeah, unfortunately for me, the old combat first aid course, I used to bag myself. So I go to raid the training store, the training room, get all the out of date IVs, and
They're still good, mate.
they're still good. That's just all. There's just the date's just a guide, bro. Like I never got sick from
It's
it.
like milk.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I guess if it's not chunky, it's good, eh?
Wow, it's just fermented yogurt, isn't it? I don't know. That's your
We'll get there, mate.
I don't know.
So how did
you guys have lost
how do
me.
you put it back on? How do you put it back on?
But man, I just I drank water and drank fucking Powerades and Hydrolyte, and I was sick for hours. But I got it back on. I was probably 78 kilos the next night, which is about what I want to be when I fight mostly, somewhere between 77 and 78. So I try. Normally, what I try to do is you don't want to take any more than 10% out during fight week, 5% out in the last 24 hours. That's like a good guide. So normally I'd go into fight week around 78, and then I weigh in at 70.8, so I'd take about 7.2 kilos out. And then the last 24 hours, I want to be somewhere around 73, 74, and that's a real easy cut, a few kilos in the sauna. Then I just pop back up to my start at whatever you're going to fight week at is what you should enter the cage at.
So you get, what's it, 24 hours? You weigh in, then you got 24 hours till you fight.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Do many fucking people die cutting?
I think they had one in 1FC, so that's why 1FC changed it to hydration testing and no water cutting. So they changed their weight classes. So basically what they did was they took the names of the weight classes and moved them all up one. So like 70.8 was lightweight and 77 was welterweight. Now 77 became lightweight. So that forced anyone who was already a lightweight stayed a lightweight by name, but they just went up a weight class. So every lightweight went up a weight class.
So is the argument not at the moment, if everybody's doing the same cut and everybody's putting weight back on the next day, why don't you weigh them 20 minutes before the fight and everyone just walk around at their fucking fighting weight?
Because fighters always look for a way to cheat or a way to get an advantage. That's the athletic.
Oh, 100%.
That's like
there's weighing.
That's like an athlete mentality is how do I get an advantage?
So jockeys
without
get weighed
cheating,
after the race, right? Not
So what
weighing
they
it
do
as
with-
they go in the cage.
Yeah, so what they do with fighters now is you weigh in 24 hours earlier, then you weigh in when you get to the event, and then you weigh in after the event. In the UFC, they've got like the ability to do that. A lot of the local shows don't have the ability to do that.
Yeah,
but I know like one of the local shows now, they weigh you at the event, so they can get a gauge of how much you cut and how much you put back on. And then they just put things in place to say, listen, man, last time you weighed in at 70 and you weighed 84 on fight night. You're not fighting at 70 anymore.
And you killed a kid.
Yeah, so that's that. The UFC's been doing it for a few years now, because I think like 2017 when I was fighting for them, they started doing that. And it's just, all they did initially was they were just calculating data. They were just trying to find out how much people were weighing in at, how much they were putting on, and what they weighed after the fight to see how much they would lose in the fight. And then from that, there was a few guys like Drew Dover, who fights in the UFC. He cuts like 30 pounds during fight week, man. So he goes into fight week at 83 kilos, weighs in at 70.8, and fights at 83 kilos. So that's the same weight class I was in, and I get back to 78. So that guy's still got a 5 kilo advantage. So there's guys that can do that, As far as weight cutting goes, the more muscle you got, the more water you can remove, because the more glycogen holds the more water. So, the more muscular guys are, the more weight they can cut. So they actually have an advantage, probably in strength and size.
That's the science part that I don't understand.
It's a crazy world, man.
From what I understand, how does having extra water weight or extra? Well, I guess if you've got muscle, then yeah, I get it.
So if you've got muscle, then you hold more water. So you can take more water out. So on fight night, when you both put your water back in and you're back at your size, the water becomes irrelevant because you've actually got 5 kilos more body mass.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know, man. Like I like fighting in Japan, and I like the old school no weight classes. Like if I had my way, I'd have an open weight fight before I finished my career. But COVID wrecked any chance of that, because Japan's about the only place that'll let you fight a guy that's 140 kilos.
So that's where you went after the UFC. You went into
Ryzen, Ryzen. I say Ryzen.
Yeah, I saw you put that stuff up on socials, man. There's some good.
I love it, man.
fights in there.
The best thing about Japan, like, and I got a highlighting moment actually that illustrates it. But the best thing about Japan is it's a samurai culture, so they love martial artists. So when you go there, like, you don't even need to be Conor McGregor. You get treated like it. People are lined up at the lift waiting for you to sign their shit and take photos. I spent an hour and a half. So, you know, like the stadium's got all these levels and you go out and get a drink or whatever. I spent like fucking an hour and a half. My team's standing there next to me laughing at me because I'm just taking photos. And but like, I swear, like when one was taking a photo, two were lining up. This fucking line went, like, it must have went around the stadium at one stage if you put them all there. And but I love it. It's like Ian was with me at the time and he said to me, this shit doesn't last forever. Sign every single piece of paper they give you and take a photo with every single person who wants a photo, because this shit will be over in 2 years' time. And he always says a lot of cool stuff that makes sense.
He's the master of being humble. Like, I didn't get to know him that well, but
he says a lot of fucking cool shit that makes sense. And well, I was there and I was like, man, I'm like an hour into taking photos of these people. My feet are getting sore. I just came out here for a drink. And he's like, man, this shit doesn't last forever. You need to make the most of this. And, you know, I'm always humble and respectful like that, and I would have stood there anyway, but it's nice to have someone in your ear that just puts it in perspective. But yeah, they really treat you like a martial artist, like a king. And so I really like that. And don't get me wrong, I like the UFC and I like performing in front of noisy crowds, and crowds get me going. And the louder the crowd, the less I think about my game plan, and the more I just stand there and brawl, which is a running joke between me and a couple of my teammates. So we're sparring, and they start making crowd noises because they know I'm just going to brawl. So it's always a running joke. But I was over getting ready for the Darren Cruikshank fight. I think it was the Cruikshank fight. It could have been the next one, but I'm pretty sure it was the Cruikshank fight. 3,000 people. You hear a pin drop, man. Japanese MMA crowds are like golf crowds.
Yeah, right.
Like like someone does something awesome, and you hear this like, it's like this little patter clap. You know what I mean? And so it's like a real respectful thing. And like, there's kids in the crowd. Like, there'll be families watching martial arts over there with like a 3-year-old asleep on the chair next to them. It's like part of their culture. They just love it. And I've done my walk to the ring. I climbed in the ring, and I hear this, "Fucking get him, Brownie! Fucking get him!" And I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And I turn around, and a stadium of 30,000 people. There's two drunk Aussies about 14 rows back, and they're just hurling shit at me. Hey, "Fucking get him, Brownie!" And I was like, that's the difference between the Western culture in combat sports. It's just bloodthirsty. Yeah. Like, knock him out. Like, stop him from hugging on the ground. Ref, stand him up. And then the Japanese culture, where they can appreciate someone putting their hand in a good spot because they understand the martial arts of it. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's the difference between a boxing crowd and a golf crowd. You know, they can appreciate the shot. That's what they clap at. They don't need to scream, punch him, because they know it's coming and they can understand how it was set up. And so I really like fighting in Japan. It's different. It's a different experience to anywhere else in the world. And I think anyone in combat sports should really strive to experience that at least once.
So do you take much damage? Do you feel different after a fight? I've never been in a fucking UFC fight, mate. I've been in pub brawls, but
did you feel different afterwards?
Day in, day out.
Did you feel different afterwards?
Well, it depends on how many times I blocked with my fucking head, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, man, yeah.
Usually because you just got thrown out, eh? So, yeah, I mean, like, they all vary, you know. Like, if you have a fight, so I never threw up after any of my fights or before them. For the first 6, you know, I was 6-0 and. Like I always say, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, no fear. I was young. And then I had this fight that I always think that it was because the fight wasn't over. Like, it was stopped by the corner through the towel end, which is really rare in MMA. But
their corner or your corner?
Their corner through the towel end. and I beat the fucking shit out of this guy, and there was cuts and blood, and it was filthy. But I went straight out the back, man. I sat over the toilet and just power spewed for like 15 minutes. And I think it was just adrenaline, but it was like the fight wasn't over in my head. Like I was still going, you know. Whereas when you sub someone, it's kind of like the fight's over, you have an adrenaline spike, and then you calm down. But it was like I didn't see the ending, and it just stopped. Anyway, ever since that fight, now I get nervous. So they always say nerves are good. I never used to get them, but after that fight, you know, now I've got this process where I understand where the nerves are going to do and where they're going to go and what's going to happen. And I wrap my hands, my palms get sweaty, and then I know that I'm getting ready for a fight. And then I warm up, and then about 20 minutes before me fight, I go to the toilet and I just belch and dry reach, just like, ugh, and like nothing comes up. My whole body cramps, and it's almost like my muscles, like the adrenaline or something's going through them, and everything cramps. Like that, and then I'm like, I'm good. I walk out, and my coach will be like, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sweet." They know that I've just been in there doing that, and then they know that it's like now part of my, routine. Like I just belch and dry reach, and then I'll walk to backstage ready to go, and I'll do it again 3 or 4 times, and I'll choke on my mouth guard, and they go, "You good?" I'm like, "Yep." And they're like, "Yep, sweet, he's good to go." It's like part of my routine now. So, and then after the fights, it just really depends, man. Like my fight in Sydney, when I fought Frank Camacho and we won Fight of the Night at UFC Sydney, I had all these good intentions on going to a cocktail bar and just drinking whiskey all night. And I sat in the lobby of the hotel, numb, like just numb. Like I didn't have any emotions. I had no feelings. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stay awake. It was like the fucking weirdest feeling ever. So every single fight feels different. There's no one feeling that you get after each fight. Funny enough, I didn't take any damage, whereas the fight in Melbourne, which was the one before that, I broke both orbital walls. So broke the orbital walls in both eye sockets, broke my nose, and broke my snapper tendons in my wrist. So I did one eye socket and my nose in the first round. I did my wrist in the second round and my other eye socket in the third round. I won a split decision, and I went backstage. They put me in an ambulance, took me straight to hospital. 4 hours later, they operated on my nose. They didn't find anything wrong with my wrist until 6 weeks later. When the swelling went down, they realised that the tendons were snapped. But I couldn't pick up a paper cup at work and drink a coffee because it was too heavy for I had so much pain. But I had scans 3 times in that 6 weeks. And in the end, it wasn't actually the scans that picked it up. I asked to go to a specialist, and I went to a specialist, and he told me that I'd done it. And he sent me for some other scans. And specifically, because he was a upper limb specialist, he sent me for a scan and then requested the radiographer or whoever writes the reports, requested for them to look for a specific thing. And so when they looked for it, they found it. And so that was all in one fight. And then after the fight, when I had surgery on my nose, thankfully the orbital bones were all in place, so nothing needed to be reconstructed there. They just reconstructed the nose through the cut that was in it. And I said to the doctor, I want to get out tonight. I'm staying at the Crown, and I want to go back to see my family. Flying home tomorrow, can I fly? And he said, yeah, right, no worries. So operated at 6, and at 9 p.m. I was at the casino, seeing my family, eating dinner. Yeah, I was happy, high on life, cloud 9, fucking crazy injuries, most amount of pain I've ever experienced. And then, like, when the next fight goes 3 rounds, we punch the shit out of each other. Not an injury in sight, but I'm numb. Can't feel a thing. It's like, it's never predictable. Do you know what I mean? Like, I never make plans for after my fights because I don't know how I'm going to feel. My wife never travels with me because I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk the next day. So if I can't walk the next day because I've broken a foot, which I've done twice, then there's no point coming for a holiday and having a week after, I could have taken her to Dublin, spend a week in Dublin afterwards. There's no point doing that because then I can walk around afterwards. So it's never predictable. 95% of the time, there's nothing wrong with me. The other 5%, I don't know, sometimes you get injuries, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just don't feel like doing anything and you have an adrenaline dump and you just want to go home.
Does the promoter pay for it? Like, UFC, obviously.
The UFC's got
pays
acute
for
injury
it.
insurance, so before the fight, you actually sign this document, and pretty much anything that happens within 30 days, they'll pay for.
And what about the other ones? Like, what about Ryzen and the Dublin fights?
Look, the thing is, like, if something happens, they'll send you for medical treatment, and they'll cover you, but they'll cover you to get it fixed. But it's like, when I fought for Cage Warriors, like, England's got a good medical system, so if you get fucked up, you can just go to the hospital, same as Australia, and they treat you. They treat you, and then they send you home. Most of the promotions, if you say, look, fortunately it never happened, but say something happens in England, I need to stay there for 3 weeks. Most of the time, the promotion will look after you. They're not going to leave you stuck in England without accommodation. Most of those promotions will be like, okay, well, we got somewhere for you to stay, or we'll pay for an apartment. Or it might not be a hotel room. They might put you in an apartment, which is a couple $100 a week instead of a couple $100 a night.
Yeah.
But they look after you on most occasions. I've been pretty fortunate on most of my travelling trips that I haven't been too injured. Most of my injuries have come from my fights in Australia, whether it's been local or whether it's been in the UFC, and I've been looked after every time. So, like, credit to the UFC, like, they look after athletes, man. Like, a lot of people talk shit about them, and the money's shit, the money's this, the money's that. I always look at it like NRL players used to complain about pay while they were fucking laying bricks all day and smoking darts and drinking piss while they were training twice a week, and they were always complaining about pay. But 30 years on, people are getting paid $1 million a season. MMA is young. I get it that they need to complain about pay because over time it will get better. But at the end of the day, it is what it is now because we're in this era of MMA. And in 20 years' time, the era of MMA will be different. Conor McGregor's purse will be standard. Do you know what I mean? Probably not. But like 100 grand will be like your first fight in the UFC, not 10. Because with time, everything develops. And I know you've got to complain to get that traction, but I also think a lot of athletes fail to realise they need to make the most of their opportunities. I worked a full-time job the whole time I was in the UFC and my whole fight career, and I used that full-time job to support and develop my personal circumstances, so support my family, buy a house, all that sort of stuff. And I used my UFC money to make the most, which is why I have a gym now that I own and stuff like that, because I reinvested the small amount of money we make in this era to better my life. And I think that a lot of them fail to do that because they think, well, I'll spend 10 years living on UFC money. At the end, they go, well, I've got nothing to show for it. Well, that's because you lived on it. I worked. I lived on that money. I'm a real person. I understand, that the money's not good enough to live on anyway. And if you do struggle through, in 10 years' time, you'll have nothing. So I'm just, I think the UFC looked after me really well. They paid me well for who I was at the time, and I made the most of that money. But they look after guys with injuries and illnesses and stuff like that. So prior to cutting me, 4 weeks prior to releasing me from my contract, they paid for my left knee surgery. They didn't have to. They could have told me no. But they didn't, and they paid for my ongoing physio, even though they released me from my contract. So,
I think at the end of the day, UFC fighting these days, it's not. It's a lot. It's very similar to the old gladiator model. It wasn't because people know who has the belts, but Conor McGregor is a perfect example. Now he still makes a fuckload of money for UFC when he's not fighting for belts anymore. It's not like footy where you're climbing a ladder, playing the whole season, trying to get the grand final at the end of the year. It's prize fighting where you will get more money if you are entertaining and you build an entire entertainment model around not just when you're in the ring, but who you are outside of it.
Well, you see it with guys in the UFC, like John Fitch got cut after one loss. I think he lost a fight 1-2, had a draw, then he lost. And he got released. Now, he just fought GSP for the title like 3 fights earlier. They fucking didn't like his style because he's like boring.
Yeah.
Now, if you understand martial arts, he's not boring. He's actually quite exciting. But from an entertainment value, he's very boring.
Yeah.
They released him after 1 fight. Then you got someone like Tai Tuivasa, heavyweight, goes for the knockout every time, lost 3 in a row. They kept him. They could have released him, but they kept him. That's just entertainment. Do you know what I mean? Be entertaining.
It's kind of what
and keep
UFC
it
is,
around
isn't
longer.
it? It's like WWE, but you're actually going to get fucking hurt
Yeah.
when you're in the ring. I look at like Jess Clark. I don't know. Did you ever roll with her much in town?
Yeah, I trained with her. No, I trained with her in Brisbane for a few years.
Oh, did you?
I talked to her a fair bit.
Yeah, well, she's coming. She was an ambassador when we first kicked off, so I was mates with them when we were in Townsville, and then kind of lost touch last year, but she's coming back on this year. And I think she won her last fight, but she was out for ages, and they keep her on because she's fucking entertaining. And out of the ring, she's not just relying on being a UFC fighter. She's building a personality and a brand around herself.
Yeah. And that's what you got
That's
to do.
fucking smart, man.
You got to build your own brand. You know, whatever that is. I got to the UFC when I was 31, and I'm I knew that I wasn't going to make millions, so make what I can make, get out, make the most of it. You know, if I got to the UFC, like Jake Matthews, I think was like 21 or 22 or something like that. That's different. Take your time, build a life, get yourself $100,000, $200,000 a fight. I think he's about to have his 15th fight in the UFC. So it's like, I was at an age where I didn't have that opportunity. So it was build the brand, make what you can, get out and use that brand to build something else. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to do that. And there's a lot of people out there doing it now. The Conor McGregor one, like you say, it's a perfect example. His pay-per-view last weekend against Dustin Poirier, second highest pay-per-view seller in history, right under Nurmagomedov. Now, like, right under the Nurmagomedov fight.
I thought it was over. I thought, wasn't there a fucking clip going round of
So
Dana White talking?
So Nurmagomedov versus Conor made the most amount of pay-per-views. It was like over 2 million, 2.5 or something like that. The one on the weekend predicted 1.6. Now, just like to put that in perspective, the beef between him and Nate Diaz didn't even make as much as last weekend. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's fucking crazy. Like, what a brand that is. When you can fight someone who you've knocked out and sell more pay-per-views than you did against Nate Diaz in the second fight. That's what you call building your brand.
And he lost, and his next fight
He'll still make
will
more.
be just as big.
His next fight will be like someone like, either Diaz 3 or Poirier 3 or something like that. And it's going to make probably another 1.8 to 2 million pay-per-views.
Yeah,
And it's
people
not
call
even
him
for a
arrogant,
belt.
man. I'm like, arrogance is one thing, but when you can back it like that, is it still arrogance, or are you just running the fight game?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So who's like I'll be honest, like I fucking love watching UFC, but it's always big name fighters that I'm watching because I dumb cunt when it comes to following UFC properly. Who are the Aussies to watch at the moment? Jake Matthews has got to be one of them.
Look, man, Jake Matthews, I think, is on a 3-fight win streak. But he's young, man, you know, like he's got time on his side. He takes time between fights. I follow him on his Instagram. He's always doing bicep curls in his garage.
Yeah, he's probably doing the old workout, mate. 'Cause he joined the army, didn't he, for a bit?
I think he did, didn't he?
Probably
Yeah, as a
doing-
reserve.
Probably doing back and biceps, shoulders. and
Doing chest and tries, back and biceps, shoulders and legs.
don't do that,
6
mate.
days a week, 3-day splits. But he's always in his garage doing curls. If he's listening sometime soon in the future, he might need to do a few more. But but yeah, you know, I think he's one to watch. You know, and the other ones are pretty obvious. You know, you got Volkanovski's the champ. He's an Aussie for all those Kiwis out there that are trying to claim him.
To get him to come on as an ambassador for a bit. But
And then
slowly.
you got Adesanya. But the City kickboxing team in general, they got a good model. You know, most of them are strikers with good high level defensive wrestling. Not many of them wrestle on the ground, despite the fact that they all can and they can all grapple as well. But they don't because they can just keep knocking people out. But I think Jake Matthews he's a solid one to watch, man. He'll do good things. He's got time on his side. And Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute. So Jimmy Crute is he's light heavyweight. I think his only loss in the UFC was to Misha Serkinov, who out-wrestled him. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's finished every other opponent he's faced in the UFC. So he might be like 10 or 11-1 now, maybe even 12-1. He was undefeated when the UFC signed him, and he's super exciting because he's a good grappler, but he trains. He's got really good kickboxing. Man, he goes for the finish every time.
Yeah,
He's got an exciting fight coming up soon too. I think he's fighting Johnny Walker, who came in as a hot prospect, jumping around, doing flying knees and all sorts of weird shit. So I think he's fighting him soon. Maybe I could be wrong, but I think he is. And so yeah, him and Jake Matthews definitely two good ones to watch. Both young, both up and coming, both got what it takes. And I think everyone should watch out for Tyson Pedro's return.
Yeah.
A man that has 2 knee surgeries and goes through what he's been through and then comes back. Doesn't just come back just to
Still
fight.
hungry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's going to come back hungry, man. He just announced yesterday that he's having a baby. And I love that family. They're awesome. And he just announced yesterday he's having a baby. He's had 2 ACL reconstructions. He's had 2 years off. Prior to that, I mean, he tore his ACL fighting Shogun Hua. Like, big name, veteran, pride UFC veteran and legend, and he tore his knee in it. But I think I watch all his training and I reckon he'll come back and he'll burst back onto the scene, man. He's young. He signed with the UFC when he was 4-0. And not many people do that. Most people got a lot more experience. So I think he'll come back real good. Yeah.
It's good. Any chicks? Is there any? There's
Any chicks? What was it?
no, as in like chick fighters to watch.
It's one of our guys, eh? Any chicks?
No, well, yeah, it's kind of always
Better than
mine.
Tora, I suppose.
Two never had to ask. They just turned up.
So Jess is still fighting. There's another. I've forgotten her name. I follow her on Instagram.
There's
she
Nadia
fought-
Kassem. She was fighting. I don't know if
right.
she's still in the UFC or she got
There's
released.
a chick who was a champion of another promotion. Came across and fought. She lost her first UFC fight to
Megan Anderson's fighting Amanda
Megan
Nunes.
Anderson. Yeah, is that coming
She's
up? Is
fighting
it?
for the belt in 7 weeks. Bold prediction: she will knock Amanda Nunes out.
Ooh, that'll. I mean, she's on the map, but that'll
She'll knock her out.
put her in the middle. Of
Bold
that.
prediction.
Fuck, all right.
There you heard it here first, mate.
Mark it down. Mark it down,
that'll be
boys. Don't put the house on it, just
Well,
the
I'm probably
shed.
gonna.
Don't put the house on it, just the shed.
Instead of
So,
like these stocks will be backing, mate.
Mate,
Better shot backing fighters, I think.
I'll tell you how she loses. The same way Duranda May just lost to her. She'll just get wrestled. So Amanda Nunes will take her down, won't submit her, and just fucking lay on her for 5 rounds. That's what'll happen. Or Megan Anderson will be the tallest and longest range fighter that Nunes has fought, and she'll knock her out. That's the only 2 ways the fight goes, in my
You
opinion.
heard it here first, mate. You mark that.
Put the
down.
house on it. I mean, the shed, not the house. Don't put the house on it. Just the shed. The garden shed, by the way. Don't put too much on it.
Anyway. Good to go. That's UFC. And your gym, mate. What's going on at your gym?
Yeah.
Whereabouts is it?
Oh, I'm about to blow the Brisbane MMA scene up. Man, we are on Leeches Road in Brendale. I won't give you the address because that shit's about to change.
This is the current one.
Yeah, so we're in Brendale. Man, we've got, a 100 square meter CrossFit set up and a 200 square meters worth of MMA area. We're about to go to a new building. We're just in the very early stages of moving, of like the legal side of it, not the actual moving part. But it won't be long, man. And I'm confident we'll be the biggest martial arts and fitness kind of gym, martial arts orientated gym in Brisbane, if not Queensland. But more importantly, I run a martial arts community. I don't run a fight gym. I'm really proud of the amount of people who have joined the gym. You know, guys in their 40s joined the gym, lost 20, 30 kilos, feeling the best they've ever felt in their life. That's what it's about. It's not about producing the next Conor McGregor, although that'd help with my marketing. It's that's not what it's about. You know, for me, it's about giving back to the martial arts community and providing people what martial arts has provided me, which is a solid mental health out in my life, and that was always the goal, you know. And we've kind of grown into the facility that we've got now. I took on that risk without a single PT client, you know, and now we've got a very solid member database, and we're ready to move. We're gonna hire a couple of PTs. We're gonna build a coffee shop, and we expect that it won't be long before we have a physio or an EP working there as well. And we'll be able to provide those services for, you know, the local person to get fit, the person that wants to learn martial arts, the person that needs to see a physio, or more importantly, I shouldn't say that, but just as importantly, the veteran that can't get out of their house. We're going to set up the coffee shop so we can set up a solid weekly catch up to get people out. So I built my business off the back of me being a veteran and being in the UFC to provide martial arts to people, but more importantly to provide a community that got around each other without judgment. And I think we've done that. So we're pumping, man. We've had 7 guys fight since we've been open. We've been open 20 months. Out of those 7 guys, only one of them had fights prior in MMA. So the others have all had fights out of our gym for the first time. So that's exciting. You know, like being a fighter myself, it really attracts me to the fight scene. It's easy, but there's a bigger goal there, and that's just to provide an environment that makes people want to get out of bed every day.
100%, man. And that's the old RSL model. Like the RSLs were there so that veterans could go and hang out and talk shit, and that was the mental health program, just hanging out. That's not really working anymore because young diggers don't want to go to RSLs and play pokies.
Yeah.
And gyms is where it's the new model. It's like, well, gyms or health-based fight gyms, like we're trying to do the same. Coogee Diggers, luckily, is moving. They put their pokies right downstairs. The whole middle floor and the whole top floor is now a gym and a pool. And it's like, they're a fucking lifestyle centre. It's got the RSL brand on the front.
Well, that's you know, like I wanted to use what I've built, my brand and my martial arts and fighting and military and stuff. I wanted to use that, but to build that, you know, that community centre, lifestyle centre, training centre, you know, whatever you want to call it. I wanted to build that so people can come and, I mean, you know, we all just hang out together.
Yeah.
You know, like I was only open like 6 weeks, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, you know, such and such came over to my house and watched UFC," and I said, "Oh, did you guys know each other before you joined up?" He's like, "No, man, we just met each other here." Like 6 weeks into having my gym open, people are watching fucking UFC events and drinking beers together. And that's what it's about. It's not about producing, you know, fighters for every second card, so I'm away from my family every weekend. It's about producing an environment that makes people want to have that gym as part of their day, because when they walk in, they feel shit, and when they walk out, they feel awesome. That's what it's about. That's what we provide. That's what we have provided. That's what people will talk about. And yeah, you know, fighting is a byproduct of your environment, and I'll always be there for the guys that want to fight, and I'll take them as far as they want. You know, hopefully one day someone wants to go to the UFC. I've got young kids that's their goal. Hopefully one day I can take them there. You know, we've got the coaches and the athletes around them to provide that, same as my coaches did me, and I'll do it for them. But as far as the gym goes, everyone trains together, everyone hangs out together. Everyone gets better together.
Fuck. Let's see. What about yourself, fighting again?
Yeah.
We're going to do
this? We don't have to.
Nah, so we got, you know, the situation is Japan just announced that Australians can't travel to Japan until 2022. Since I left the UFC, we've talked to them a couple of times. They offered me and another guy to someone last year. Unfortunately, not last year because I was recovering from surgery. The year before, after I got released, unfortunately they chose the other guy, so I didn't get back in. The next time there was a spot came up for an athlete, I was coming off a loss. They said, "Oh, you're coming off a loss," so I can't really fight anywhere else. And because of COVID, really the UFC is the only place where guys are getting active. I don't want to fight locally because it doesn't make sense. You know, I can't lose money from my business or from working to make less money fighting because it doesn't make any sense. So, you know, we're working on a fight in Brisbane. Sometime, I can't say the dates because there's not many shows, but sometime in the next 8 weeks.
Amount of time.
Right. It might be 9, I'm not sure. Me and the opponent have both said yes. It's just the details. When the details, you know, Ross, don't be a sack. All right, just cut your purse in half. Let's just punch on. The crowd need it. My family and friends need it. My member database needs it. We all need that violence in our life, and so do you. So you know, it's pretty. It's no, you know, it's all respect. Ross Pearson's a fucking stud. You know, he was in the UFC for years, like a decade or more. He won the Ultimate Fighter. He was in the top 15. He's fought the who's who. He got robbed by the fucking Mexican commission when he beat Diego Sanchez. I've been a Ross Pearson fan forever. Ross gave me advice when I was opening my gym. Man, it's all respect. But both of us personally, like in personal messages, have agreed that it's a good fight. We'd both love to make it happen. You know, if the promotion can't make it happen, maybe we can get some sponsors on board and we can make it happen because, man, it is a blockbuster of a fight. It's something that I want, he wants, the fans will want. It screams bloodthirst, Western culture fighting, not grappling, heavy,
Technical
hugging.
golf,
So yeah, and you know, it's a cool fight, and I've asked a bunch of promoters to make it happen because we've agreed to it between ourselves, and yeah, it's all respect, but unfortunately that it's prize fighting, man. The prize needs to make sense, or the fight doesn't happen. So, you know, that's fighting. Like you hear it a lot of the times that people are like, "Oh man, he doesn't want to fight me." That's bullshit. The promoter just doesn't want to give him the extra $5,000.
Yeah.
You know, like so. But I know they got a business to run as well, so we'll just see what happens. But you know, Ross, cut your purse in half, bro. Let's go. So we'll just see what happens. I'd like to fight one more time in Australia, and I'd like that to be my fight. And then I'd like to just sit back and I could sit on that one, and you know, if big opportunities came up in the future, then I would look at them. But I could definitely sit on that one, man. Yeah. There's not many fights that I'd be happy to sit on, but I'd sit on that one.
Okay. Mate, I've got to bounce out for a piss in a second. How?
No, mate, I think that's fucking pretty good. We have to get you back on, dude, because I want to deep dive your brain and the psychology of fighting and why the fuck you get in the ring with people. It's crazy, man. I'm glad you took the time out of your day to come on, man. And it was always a pleasure talking to you.
That's right. Let's do say it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, fuck yeah. We'll have a chat after this, but I think the borders are going to open up properly, hopefully in the next few days or whatever. We're going to spend a lot more time in Queensland.
Are you from Greater Sydney?
Hey, I'm from Newcastle. So, fuck it,
COVID.
yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to get tested.
Everyone gets tested. You need to get tested when you hang out with us.
They really exploit you with those
That's
tests.
a different sort of test, but
They really exploit you with those tests, don't they?
yeah.
Have you had one?
Invasive.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
You put up your bum, right? That's what happened
Bro,
to me.
Yeah, of course. But no,
They went from nose to mouth on me.
Yeah,
They went from nose to mouth on
back
me.
out of the gutter and then.
No, legit.
What's that?
Nose mouth.
nose to
Swab.
mouth is what you're saying.
What were you
Sorry.
talking about?
I took Johnson in my hand. I'm like, don't let him go there. Change the subject.
Nah, man, they swabbed the nose and straightened the throat. I was like, fucking hell. I was very, yeah, I was, like, yeah, oh, mate. And then he told me I was a drama queen because I was rubbing my nose. I feel like punching him out. But anyway, he's a nurse. I can't do that to him.
But no, we've got to. There's a strong veteran community in Gold Coast, Brizzy, and we definitely want to spend more time up here. So I think sounds like what you're building in your gym could be the spot where we need to start. If we're going to do events or whatever, we'll come to your gym and.
Man, it's there. It's going to be
Yeah,
huge.
put some
It's going
stuff
to be huge.
on.
I can't go into too many details because it's not done yet. But
No.
But you know, it wouldn't even need to be done yet. But at the end of the day, it was my goal from the start was to get one place out, grow it, get another place out, grow it, and just make it what people want in their life every week, and that's what it's turned into. So it'd be awesome to have you guys out there next time, and we can have a chat. I got you won't have to hold on to my microphones, bro.
Nah.
I'll attach them to the desk for you so you can.
Well, we were going to get boom arms, but the finance
We're just
director.
like a charity, mate. We're on a budget mix. It's like we need boom arms because we've got boom arms like those swing arms at home kits when we do it from all around the place. He's like, mate, if we're going to get a proper podcast set up, you got to get swing arms. I'm like, how much are they? And he goes, $80. I'm like, no, it's not the budget, mate.
We'll get the UFC to sponsor the podcast. We'll be good to go.
They don't sponsor their
I think they
athletes,
go
mate.
the other way, mate.
Sweet.
But
Thanks for having me on board.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, bro.
Appreciate it.